when I saw that headline today, I did kind of a double take in my screen because, there's obviously so many other high stakes developments happening every day while we're sort of in the throes of this conflict. And this was one that I think a lot of people didn't see coming. The context is that the UAE has certainly butted heads quite a few times with Saudi Arabia, which is the de facto leader of OPEC. UAE has wanted to raise supply. It has a far lower fiscal break even than Saudi Arabia, for example, or other members of the group. It's about $50 a barrel, whereas Saudi's is about $90 a barrel. So for them, it makes sense to pump more, especially now when WTI is at 100 almost, Brent is at 110, and take advantage of these prices. And they have among the highest amount of spare capacity of most members of OPEC. So they're really in a position where they can reap the benefits of what's going on. It's just a matter of being restrained by the group or not.
But for so many years, and like Carol said, strength in numbers, this idea of acting unilaterally and going out into the marketplace and saying, this is what we're going to do. We are representing the various interests of these OPEC countries. How does the UAE now do that alone?
So I think in the past, it was a matter of, how do we come out with this decision and risk sort of totally upending oil prices? And the UAE has even said that this was a really opportune time to come out and kind of announce this break from the group that they might have been possibly, this is totally my speculation, but it might have been something that they wanted to do for a while. They just couldn't risk the market impact. Another part of that is that a lot of these Gulf countries have made an effort to sort of diversify away from oil, which is really the crux of a lot of their economies. So
is that the case for UAE, or are they more reliant?
It's the case for both, UAE, Saudi, but like I mentioned, the UAE's break even is lower than Saudi. So they're just, by default in a better position to sort of lead this break than another member is.
What impact might this have on global energy markets? And I am curious, does it weaken OPEC? And, it just feels like this moment in time where we know the region, the Middle East, has been looking to broaden out its economy. And it has been doing so with some successes and some maybe not so much. But I just wonder, are the fortunes perhaps changing literally and figuratively of the Middle East right now?
Yeah, this will have a major impact on global energy markets, oil markets, obviously, specifically, in the long term. But in the short term, it's not going to do much. I think everybody was shocked by that headline today and the reaction of the oil market. Barely what was it, maybe a $3 move? And if this had happened a few months ago, this would be the story of the day. Whereas today it's sort of, gotten lost in all the other kind of news and speculation over the war. So in the short term, it's not as if the UAE could have gotten those barrels, can get those barrels out of the Persian Gulf right now anyway. So it doesn't change much. When the conflict ends, however, we'll have to see what the dynamic in the group is, right? So we'll have to see if other members follow suit. I haven't heard any sort of messaging that others are planning to. We'll have to see if people keep up with output quotas. There were a few cheaters that existed, that might become more prolific if Saudi it continues being restrained. If Saudi decides to compete with the UAE and try to grab market share by driving down their prices, then we have possibly a full-on price war on our hands. So it really depends.
It also comes at a time where, if we look at U.S. production, U.S. production over the last generation or so has really increased. And I'm wondering what this means for the U.S. and its role in global oil markets.
Yeah, it certainly means that one competitor has gotten stronger. It's a big one for Donald Trump, who was known to butt heads in the past with OPEC and has been wanting them to raise production for a long time with the aim of bringing down energy prices in the United States. So I think this will really shift the landscape among oil producers, but it's going to be really hard to see what that picture looks like until the conflict comes to an end.
So it sounds like, though, it could potentially longer term, if it becomes a bit of a free-for-all and people cut prices to gain greater share, that the world benefits, at least for a while, perhaps, right? In lower global energy or global oil prices.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends where you stand in the world, right?
True.
Like
That's true.
The US and
wondered.
UAE, yeah, it certainly would benefit, but there's definitely a lot of countries that are, less developed, that are maybe relying on those oil prices to sustain their economy, that this is going to be pretty painful for.